With the tool shop emptied, I decided to go to work on the little building next to it, which we ended up calling the motorcycle shed. As usual, I had to cut through a couple of padlocks to get inside. This included a combination lock inside this metal box. What made it even more difficult was that Harold placed it so far off the ground. Harold was 6'5", so for him it was probably easy to get to. But I needed a little help. To get these locks off, you have to almost completely saw through them. That's not easy to do in such a confined space. I ended up having to beat on it with a hammer and a pry bar to finally get it to release. It took a while, but eventually the lock finally gave up and I got it off. Ha! I almost got through it myself. It's kind of hard when you're blind. Just to show up to the camera.
You cut it anyway.
Yeah. Almost cut it off. Cut the latch off instead. Alright. Good. After finally getting the door open, we found one of Harold's mini motorcycles. Yeah, motorcycle. Yeah, this is the motorcycle. That's all there is in there now. Looks like.
Few sockets.
Kawasaki Concourse. This turned out to be a 2000 Kawasaki Concourse. It's a sport touring motorcycle that Kawasaki made between 1986 and 2006. It has a 1000cc inline 4-cylinder engine and was designed for long trips on curvy roads. There's no telling how long this was in there, but it was actually in great shape with only about 20,000 miles on the odometer. We looked it up and they sell used in this condition for about $2,000 to $3,000. Not bad at all. Other than the motorcycle, the little shed was pretty much empty, except for some trash. So I moved on to the next treasure chests, these silver and yellow metal boxes. But before I could, I had to make a little room, because the yard was simply too crowded. I decided to try to get this green trailer and red truck out of there. This was a 1991 Toyota extended cab 4-wheel drive that Harold bought. Not bad, right? Problem was, an engine fire had totally destroyed it. But apparently it was still so precious to Harold that he had it here, locked behind the gate on this trailer. Of course, I thought moving this would be easy. Just so you'll understand my pain and all the stuff I go through with Harold, he never fails to surprise me. Had to rent a truck because I've got to get this thing and that trailer moved out of this yard so that I can start cleaning up some other stuff. Okay, so first things first, he had this blocking the hitch for the trailer right there. So I had to take my handy dandy grinder, grind that chain right there to get this off. All right, so problem solved, right? Got the hitch hooked up, everything's good to go. Try to start moving it, and this trailer won't budge. I mean, it won't budge, and I'm like, what the heck? Aired up all the tires, everything's good. So I come over here, bend down, and I find that center block is jammed underneath the frame of this trailer, like right under there. You can see that big pile of dirt would not move. I'm like, oh, okay, must be the center block. So I took the center block out of the way, thought, okay, you got me, Harold. Try to move it again, truck's just peeling out. I'm like, what could possibly be going on? So I come to the back here, and I find this mysterious cable. You see this cable right there? That cable is wrapped around an axle right in there, you can see. And that cable is then tied into this big bus. So he was going to make damn sure that nobody stole that Toyota that doesn't have a motor in it and his beloved trailer. This guy, I swear, he should have worked for the government or something. Okay, well, onwards and upwards. Bye. Eventually, I did get the truck and trailer moved out. Surprisingly, despite the fire and destruction in the cab, the truck still turned out to be worth a bit. We ended up selling it for $1,500 a few weeks later. Now that I had room, it was time to get to these boxes again. These boxes, which were chained to each other so they couldn't be stolen, were what they call gang boxes. They're used on construction sites to store tools and such for the crew. I have no idea how Harold got them, but I'm thinking he probably got them at an auction or something like that. The silver one only had one lock on it, so I started with that one. Oh, there you go.
Harold was a mechanic, and not only was the yard filled with junkers, but it was also filled with car parts. These parts were locked in a metal box that was chained to another box to make sure that nobody stole them. And they really weren't anything special, just old engine parts. Much more of this was to come, though. So the silver box was a bust. On to the yellow one. This one was much harder to get into. The lock was hidden away in this covered box. To get to it, I had to cut away the box itself. Then, once the small box covering the lock was butchered, I could cut off the lock. Then I had to remove this very stubborn steel rod. Finally, I was able to open it up.
Has 4-cent postage stamp. Oh, it's like an old gun cleaning kit. All right.
Are you gonna
That's kinda
use?
cool. I can use one.
Can I have the briefcase? If you don't.
Can I use it, huh? Let's see. Knife.
It was a jumble of stuff he'd bought and just dumped in there. There were tools and parts, some valuable and some not so much. I set up more plastic bins to help me sort it all out.
Digging into the yellow toolbox today. We've collected so many tools that our tubs overfloweth. So got my tubs laid out here, and then once I get whatever's in the yellow toolbox into there, then I can put them all into the tool shop there, where it's just absolutely ridiculous the amount of tools this man had. But we'll get them all together, get them in big tubs because they're overflowing too, and eventually we'll get them counted. 5 of those.
Much of the box was filled with tools or car parts. Again, there were wrenches and screwdrivers and pliers. The bin started filling up pretty quickly as I went through it.
3/4 inch drive.
One of the more valuable items I found was a Craftsman 3/4 inch drive set.
Oh yeah, $140. Bought from the pawn shop.
$140, and he never even used it. Also, I found a TIG torch assembly in a plastic bag.
This is for welding, I think. $399.95.
Again, he never used this. It's worth about $400.
How many of these winches do you need? I think this is the 3rd one I found. 3rd ATV utility winch.
These winches sell for about $100. He had 3 of them. Also, there were a lot of random weird things.
Billiards repair kit. Okay. And then knives. Cuisinart knives. $3.99, $5.99, $4.99. So, roughly $15 for those 3 things that he just kept in there. Kept the price tags on. I mean, it's not surprising anymore, right? This is a welder that is still tied up. I'm going to assume he just bought this. Yeah, it sure as heck is.
And finally, what I at first thought was another welder turned out to be a plasma cutter, something else Harold never used. This was made by Cornwell Tools and manufactured around 2015. They don't make this particular model anymore, but I found these online used, selling for about $800. In all, the yellow toolbox gave us another huge load of tools to sort through and to organize. The tools themselves, including hand tools and power tools, were probably worth at least another $500. All in all, not a bad haul. My next job wouldn't be nearly so simple as this one, though. Join me on the next episode as I tackle the biggest barn on the property on Harold's estate. And be sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss one of the treasure hunts.